Hello, this is Bob Gray Sr. Welcome to Ministry Moments. Every Friday, 4 o'clock Eastern Time. You can go to Ministry Moments YouTube, Bob Gray Sr., and you can subscribe there. That way you'll get it every week. And then you can look at it at your own leisure when you can work it into your schedule. Well, God bless you. Well, let's talk about a relationship with banks today. You want to do that? I'm going to anyway. A relationship with banks. So I hope that some very practical tips I can give you here that might be of help to you. A relationship with banks. You have to have money in order to be able to do faculty, finances, and facilities are the three vetoes that I've taught for years and years and years. And God uses tithes and offerings, but he also asks us to be very wise in how we handle and be good stewards with what God has given us, the property. And all of that's a part of the ministry. And to be a quote bishop means you need to be over the affairs of the church and be wise in how you handle it. You're not a good steward if you're not accountable. Find yourself accountable. You're accountable to the people. You're accountable to the deacons. You're accountable to the banker. You're accountable to a lot of people. More important, you're accountable to God. So let me talk to you about a relationship with banks. When I first went to Longview, we had, hard to believe, we had a split after I was there. In 1980, I went there. In 81, came back from pastor school, and the crazy thing had split while I was gone. And the leader of the thing was the financial, tie straight here, was the, and this thing's crooked here. Anyway, the financial lady was the one who caused the split, led the split by going through all the givers and telling them they were starting a mission church across town, which turned today. I went for RG's funeral and drove by. That building belongs to the World Council of Churches that those people built that split from Longview Baptist Temple, and was led by a staff member at the split from Jerry Falwell. He was a staff member for Jerry Falwell. Not bitter. Let me talk to you about a relationship with banks. Our church grew a budget of offering $2,250 to averaging $60,000, over $60,000 a week. And God was good to us, and God blessed in a marvelous way. We gave $9.3 million to missions in 3 decades and started 1,710 churches around the world. And very, very grateful for that. But let's talk about the relationship with banks. Number one, open a savings and checking account with a local bank. There are local banks and there are national banks. Well, go to the local bank, meet the manager, get to know him, but open up a savings and checking account there. Number two, open a savings and checking account at a national bank. Bank One was the big bank back then. It's now Chase, I think. But White Oak State Bank and George Moody got saved through one of our ministries. And George Moody was the local banker. He was a good guy, and he was a dear friend to me. He called Mrs. Ayers one time and said, "Is the man of God mad at me?" And she said, "What are you talking about?" So, well, preacher had been in here borrowing money. I think he's mad at me. And she said, "Oh, don't worry, he'll be back." But a relationship with banks. Open a savings and checking account with a local bank. Open a savings and checking account with a national bank. Number three, purchase office items on credit. I'm trying to help you to build a relationship with banks now. Purchase office items on credit. Build your credit. You could pay cash. I know you can. I know that. But you want to build up a credit rating. And you can't do that if you don't borrow anything. So purchase office items on credit. I was just with a pastor in Kansas here a few weeks ago, and he said, "Brother Gray, that was the best advice I ever got." He said, "I came here with nothing, didn't know what to do. And at the clinic, you told me to just uncredit." And he said, "I did, and I built up a good credit rating, and it makes a difference." So purchase office items on credit. Build your credit, even though you can pay cash. Number one, open a savings and checking account, local bank. Number two, open a savings and checking account with a national bank, big money. Number three, purchase office items on credit to build up your credit rating. Number four, meet the bank managers. Take time to go by and sit down and chat with them. Number 5, take them to lunch and explain your ministry. You may not be able to explain it in the office. You meet the banker. And when you go in there, go to where he's at, shake his hand, and thank him. And just say, look, we're grateful. You've been a blessing to our ministry, and we're grateful. That's good. That's good, just good PR. Then number 5, take them to lunch and explain your ministry. When I first went to Longview, first thing I did is found the chief of police. I found the sheriff, and he said, "What'd you do that for? You expect to go to jail?" No, but I expected we were going to have a soul winning church, and if we did, there were people going to complain, and I wanted them to know, here's my number. If some of our members do something that's not right, you call me. But I just want you to know what I'm going to do. This is my mission. This is what I'm going to do. And I would do the same thing with apartment managers. I would do it with motel managers, and the trailer parks. Couldn't get it out there. The trailer parks, as they began to, we were at the time when the Rust Belt, they called it, Illinois, Michigan, Indiana, it started just going downhill. And everybody moved to Texas then. Everybody moved south. There were all kinds of trailer parks popping up. Great soul winning, just great soul winning. So number 1, open a savings and checking account with a local bank. Number 2, open a savings and checking account with a national bank. I'm heading somewhere, so don't leave me. Number 3, purchase office items on credit. Build your credit, even though you could pay cash. You could, but build up your credit rating. Number 4, meet the bank manager. Number 5, take them to lunch and explain your ministry. Number 6, ask questions. Ask questions of them, and pay attention. Be good for you to watch some of the business networks and pay attention to what's going on. But next, provide monthly, quarterly, and annual financial reports. I took in monthly reports, I took in quarterly reports, and I took in annual reports. And my financial reports were thick. I covered every base. So number 8, I'm sorry, pay for an appraisal of the property. Once it begins to grow, you begin to build buildings, and we built a lot of buildings in Longview. When we did, then I wanted to make sure I had an appraisal for it, because you can borrow money on buildings and stay within no more than 25% of your budget being used for debt retirement. But you can use that to leverage with the banks in order to build buildings and build more buildings. All right. So pay for an appraisal of property. You got to know what your worth is. Number 9, keep an inventory of all furniture and fixtures and buses. Every time you buy a computer, you give it a number and put it in a file. A financial lady put it in a file. Every time you buy an office chair or desk or whatever it is you buy, you give it a number. That's what we did at Fisher Body. When I worked for Fisher Body, we tagged everything. And then we had an inventory. We checked our inventory. So I don't care if it's a lamp. I don't care what it is. Give it a number, put it in a file, and keep it at inventory. And I'll explain to you why that's important. So you want to keep an inventory of furniture and fixtures and buses. And we had 45 buses at our height that ran 40 routes. So every one of those buses was a part of our inventory. And we put it in the computer. Our financial lady did it and kept a good record of everything. So I knew when we purchased something, we put the purchase price, we put when it was bought, and gave it a number. All right. You say, why would you do that? Okay, I'll explain to you why. Because you can borrow short-term money from the local bank on those items. White Oak State Bank was so good to us. I had to give it all twice a year. I know you say, oh, thank God you weren't my pastor. Well, I wasn't. So we had we had 2 give-it-alls. Well, that was short-term money. And I could go to the bank, go to George, and borrow money on furniture and fixtures. I knew what my value was because I kept track of it. I knew what the value of the buses was. I kept track of it. And so I could borrow money. I would sign the titles to the buses and get the cash. If I won $700,000, I had $400,000 worth of furniture and fixtures. And of course, what the value of the buses was back then, but a lot of money. And so I could borrow short-term money on that. So if I had a project, if I had to replace air conditioners, I had things that had to be done, then I could go to the deacons and go to the people and say, we're going to have a give it all this fall. We bought 20 buses one time for a give it all. So whatever it is that we needed, and then I take it to the people and say, okay, we're going to have a give it all. But in between, I could go to the bank and get the cash now and get it done. And interest was as low as $700 on one of those deals. So anyway, number one, open a savings checking account with a local bank. Do the same with a national bank. Purchase office items on credit to build up your credit. Don't have to. I know you got cash, you don't need it, but you want to build up that credit rating. Next, meet the bank manager. Go by, shake his hand, thank him. Next, take him to lunch when you've got some time and explain the ministry to him. Next, ask questions and pay attention and of course, Fox News is a great business network. I like it. I like Neil Cavuto myself. But I'm just saying to you that it'd be worth your while to pay attention to what's going on. Just I pay attention to sports because when I get on a plane and talk to somebody, I want to be able to talk sense and then be able to get into their world and then give them the gospel. Okay, so ask questions. Next, number 7, provide monthly, quarterly, and annual financial reports. Next, number 8, pay for an appraisal on the property. Know exactly what it's worth. Next, keep an inventory of all furniture and fixtures and buses. Tag them. Have it in your computer. You know exactly, punch a button and tell exactly how much they're worth. So you can borrow on it, okay? Borrow short-term money from the local bank, borrow big money from the big bank or major banks. Now, when you start building, when you start building, you can use go up to, I don't know what it's like now, but you can go up to 80% of what you have appraisal to borrow money on. And if you do this right, you build out, have a debt retirement program where your people pay and take down the principal of that debt down. Then eventually then you can turn that and build a building and borrow the money right back up to a level. Of course, you have to pay attention to interest. When I went to Longview in 1980, good old Jimmy Carter, our interest, and people don't believe it, we go back and check it, was 20%. We were paying 20% to the church. I paid 20% on a house that I bought, and then it ended up when the interest went down. But it was hard to believe. But boy, you can't get the government sticking their nose into. They don't understand economics, and that's why we're in the trouble inflation we're in now, because the government pumped money into the economy, and it's ruined the dollar. We just got a mess. And if somebody doesn't get a hold of it, get some common sense again in Washington, then everybody's going to pay. It's going to rate on just and unjust alike with high interest rates. But this is a relationship with banks. I hope this helped you. You may not need it now, but there may be a day when you need it. And so I hope you take advantage of some things, some thoughts here. Okay. God bless you. Thank you for joining me. Tomorrow's soul winning now. You make sure you're out there winning souls tomorrow. Don't you lay around. Let's get with it. God bless you.